Welcome, everyone. Many of you know that our focus here on hashtag On Point with Dr. Pam is to bring you business leaders who are passionate about making a difference in the lives of others. And I want to share a story with you that happened to me Sunday. Okay, I happened to be in the car. I was listening to the radio, and I heard that there was an accident in another county. And that accident involved adults and two children. And what do you think came to my mind? My family members. I wondered if my family members were involved in that accident. But because I know our next guest, Lynn Lambrecht, it was a cause for concern. Because I thought more deeply after my husband and I have worked with Lynn Lambrecht about what happens when people survive, which that is a blessing. We want people to survive these emergencies, these accidents. But do people understand about planning, about the essentials, so that if you're just on your way to the grocery store, you and your partner, and your children are at home, they don't want to go, and you get in an accident that makes it necessary for you to stay for 9 weeks in a hospital? What about your children and your pets? What about who pays the bills? With that, I want to welcome Lynn Lambrecht, founder of the Living Planner. Lynn, I'm so glad to have you here today.
Dr. Pam, it's a pleasure to be here. And boy, your story hits me right here because it's real.
It is real. And I want to share with the audience one more. A friend of a friend very recently had a husband who passed away suddenly at 55. And so what we talk about here today with Lynn is critical. Now on the lighter side, I did have my financial advisor who, after he spoke with Lynn, said, Pam, I ran right out and made 5 keys to my house and made sure my family members had keys to my house. So with that, Lynn, tell us a little bit about your background, how you came to help people in these spaces. I'm glad to have you.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. And I'm sorry I'm giggling, but I'm thinking about Taylor and I'm cracking up that Taylor, you're a young one. And I'm so glad you listened. Bravo. Bravo.
That's right.
Oh, you guys, how to summarize everything that I've done. I've been very, very fortunate in this world. And I've been able to live in 17 places in 35 years. And you know what? But all the while, I keep a lot of my roots about me, like my family roots. And some of that comes from the fact that I had a lot of people in the sciences, doctors and dentists and things of that nature. I also understood service from a young age, and that came from my parents also. And you know what? I think it's just important to look after ourselves and one another. But what I was finding in my professional life, I joined an airline, my first job, out of grad school. And in undergrad and grad school, I had paid for school and I was an RA in the dorms and I had res in grad school. And I'd had some crisis intervention training. And I know I'm a live wire. And believe me, I drive my family nuts. And so it's kind of one of those things, though. I have an incredible ability to calm immediately when something's bad. And that, I think, is a gift. And it's something that I knew that I had, but I also knew that I had my service side. And it's like, okay, when the poo-poo hits the fan, we need help sometimes, and we need information help sometimes, we need emotional support sometimes, we need, like, how do we pick ourselves up and go on sometimes. And so I was called and asked if I wish to be considered as a volunteer emergency team responder. My answer was an unequivocal yes, but of course my curious side said, and tell me what that entails. Because, I didn't know what the expectation would be. And I always like to know what that is. And, it's...
Well, wait a minute, Lynn. And Lynn's humble. Lynn has helped people in very serious situations.
Well, and that's what I said yes to. And so those situations were working airplane crashes. And so I worked 2 of them in my 20s and saw very different things that planted the seed for why I'm doing what I do today. In the first crash, everyone died, and in the second crash, everyone lived. And so I saw two very different perspectives of worlds being rocked, of everything changing in the blink of an eye. And it was fascinating to me that I hadn't considered all the life administrative stuff that we just do naturally. I mean, we run on autopilot. We walk into wherever we live, we park our car wherever we park our car. We get our mail from wherever we get our mail. We pay our bills. We do all of this stuff.
It's almost like automatic, right?
It's autopilot.
Yes.
I mean, we don't have to think about any of that stuff.
Business owners drive to their practice, let's say.
Well, you do. And I mean, you also engage with clients and you hire staff sometimes. You have independent contractors other times. You have, contracts that you're sending out, payments that you're receiving, bank accounts that you're managing. I mean, we do a lot. And I'm glad in some ways that we don't think about it, because we drive ourselves more nuts than we already are. I mean, life's busy. But what I found was that in those devastating moments, working the actual, the crisis phone lines for the family members, the people that I was talking with or listening to had no idea what their loved one had actually done.
Right.
Because
They don't know.
We play to our strengths. We play to our strengths. And so it's like, honey, you're good at this. Go. Oh, I'm good at this. I'll go. Blah, blah, blah. And that's what we do, because life needs to be as smooth as we can ensure that it can be. Yet what I noticed was the gap of never the twain shall meet. Because
let me tell the audience just for 1 minute, Lynn, when an emergency happens.
Oh my gosh.
When the doctor or the mom or the dad or the child or the pet, though the people are on autopilot. If no one knows what to do and how to do it when the emergency happens,
it's horrible.
It's right. Okay, go ahead. I just want to make sure people were following that. Go ahead, Lynn.
And thank you for that clarification, because, it's interesting. I've talked with a lot of emergency room doctors when people are being brought in and, family members are asked, do you know what their wishes are? Do you know about this? And when the answer is no, then it's, it can be cause for pause, even for the people that are responding to try to help.
Right.
But in those first moments of hearing all the people talking to me and saying, honey, I don't know where to find a bank, like my bank account, or I don't know if I have an insurance policy, or we don't know where this might be, or could you tell me about benefits from work? How am I supposed to be doing this? When they deserve to grieve. That's what broke my heart. Right. We get so panicked at that moment, because how are we going to reinvent life without someone we really count on and love?
Right.
That's
even if it's temporary.
Even if it's
right. So that's, people think, well, it's about a will. And by the way, it's half of all Americans, I read in Forbes, you speak to this, Lynn, half of all of Americans over 55 don't have a will. And
67% of all American adults in the US do not have even a will.
Wow.
Only 33% do.
And then I've read that 18%, that's why I want the audience to really hear this. 18% have the living piece of that. That's so little.
Well, but see, then the legal side is one piece. You guys, I'm a puzzle person in the way of life. I'm not, believe me, I like even putting puzzles together on my dining room table, especially in the wintertime. But I will tell you that we have an extraordinary amount of these puzzle pieces within our day-to-day lives. That's the administrative side that we're really taught. And so when we don't know what the persons that, the people that we count on, what's important to them, how can we help them? And how can we help ourselves? So I'm the believer of building the muscle, taking some action in advance to kind of say, okay, hold on, let me break this part down. And I'm going to tell you, it's about a whole lot more than just the darn legal stuff, because I did my legal stuff when I was in my 20s. And it was after I had worked crash number two, because I was 28 and the gentleman that I was helping was 31 and he had third degree burns over 85% of his body. So
Wow.
he was not able, who could pay his bills, who could, take care of the pets, who could go in into where he lived when his parents didn't even have access.
And I
So
must say, Lynn had to teach me I needed to know the code to the garage. So all the things. Anyway, I wanted to lighten it up. Keep telling about this person who had the burn.
Well, when
Okay.
I talked to my first round of attorneys, if you will, because I've been doing this now for many years, updating my little legal documents. But when I talked to them, I said, okay, where's the rest? Little miss, I am in my 20s and I'm doing this for the first time. And they looked at me and they said, what are you talking about? And I said, how does someone know how to get into my place? That's why, Taylor, I am laughing.
Yeah.
How does somebody know how to get into my place? How does somebody know actually what bills I have to pay and how to pay them? How does somebody know? And I just went prattling where my car is. And they said, stop it, stop it. And I said, well, if you guys don't do this, I guess I'll have to create a trail of breadcrumbs. So I am the one that has literally been doing this for almost my entire adult life.
Mhm.
And I think what's fascinating is my family were the ostriches. Nobody wanted to talk about this. Their little heads were in the ground, their cute little bottoms were up shaking. And, they thought I was hiding something from them, that I had some horrible diagnosis and I was going to die tomorrow. And I kept saying, no, this is about the just in case. And I want to live my life fully every day. I want
And
to
we
embrace
have to
it
make it okay to talk about this. We have to. So I want
somehow.
to let the audience know after we met with Lynn, we sent as a gift Lynn's book, okay, to our in-laws. And like Lynn said, people are taught not to talk about it. And they, like most people, think about the will. And I said to them, no, this is about the living, the planning.
Mhm.
Like, where's the key to this? And so now this has opened up a fun conversation with my in-laws. In fact, my husband was making jokes last weekend about, okay, I understand the knob for the water in the other home is here, but now what do I do with the knob? Anyway, okay.
I love it. Well, and it does open up conversation. I mean, I know I was like the perpetual pain in the butt for my mom and dad, but I could fly home. So I visited every 3 months and, I would like say, hey, Dad, does mom know where this is? And he'd be like, I don't want to remember. Mom, do you know about this? Oh, that's your father's job, blah, blah, blah. And in time, it's like water going against rock. It ultimately, like creates an opportunity. And as their illnesses were increasing and different things were occurring, with different medical issues, et cetera, it became more evident. And my goal for any of us is maintain dignity of those that we love. Okay. Allow them. The one thing I also learned is, and especially like with parental units, is that, guess what? They love their independence. Just like we do. We were like free when we were 16 and we could drive. Nobody wants any of that to be taken away. So, how do they maintain control within the realm of control, while also talking about, hey, here are some things to think about from a safety side? Let's make sure that we've got like backups. Because in my world, I look at it this way: let's have a safety net.
Mhm.
I don't want to be on a trapeze and fall and like go smush on the ground. I want to have a safety net. And so therefore it's important to, suss out some of the people that are near us. I mean, again, you are a puzzle, each of you. We are each a puzzle. We, live in different places, we do different things, we generate different stuff. We have sometimes we've had healthy relationships with family, sometimes not. Sometimes our friends are our family, sometimes not. I mean, so you have to understand all of the sides of you, but also the pieces of you that, actually would be really good to share with others so they know how to help you.
Right. And you don't want any stress when the emergency is happening, or very
Well,
little.
you're gonna have
Is gonna
stress
happen.
anyway, but you don't want the practical stress to like bring you down. I mean, you're
Right.
gonna
Like,
have the other stress.
right. Who's the utility? So
I know.
Lynn, I know your book creates a lot of awareness, and we have it, and it's so useful and so practical, and we've given it as a gift, as I mentioned. So lean into that a little bit and tell people about the book and how
I'm
they
gonna
can
tell
get
you
it.
guys why I wrote it. My parents are my example for this, okay? Because again, I was explaining, oh, no, no, Lenny, we don't want to talk about this. But when I had the opportunity to change countries and companies and move 8,000 miles away, my conversation with mom and dad was something like this. You guys, I can fly home from anywhere in the world in 24 hours. Yet, if I don't have the necessary permissions to help you when that time comes, it's going to be harder for me to make make an impact. So I don't really care how things have been structured and written. I just care that they've been updated so that state and national laws are, adhered to. Please understand, no one in my family had ever been in the corporate world because they were all on their own. I mean, my dad was a World War II veteran as a dentist, and he said, Lenny, I do the priests and nuns for free, for God's sake. I mean, I don't know business. I don't like business. I'm embarrassed. I don't know what to ask. I'm not sure where to start. I don't want people to think that I don't care. And I said, oh, we know you care, Dad. I said, and I won't take it personally if I'm still named other as born in the will, because I'm the oops child, you guys. So it was I had them laughing, and so I came home and we just took a look at stuff, and I wanted to check on beneficiary designations. I wanted to make sure the bank card was up to date. I wanted to go to the doctor's office and make sure HIPAA stuff that they, had granted the doctor permission to contact people that they wanted. And when we get to the attorney's office, I said, I'll sit outside. You guys choose what you'd like. I don't need to be involved. And they were like, come in. So, because a lot of the legal stuff is, I swear to God, they're paid by the word sometimes. No offense, attorneys, I love you.
Right.
But it's just fascinating to me because the layperson interpretation makes it's like, how does it apply to me? And that's how I think of everything. So literally, I wrote this book with my dad's in my head saying, I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to ask. And so I thought, okay,
And that becomes really difficult when we don't know what to ask.
we don't know what we don't know.
Right. I mean, we can form the question.
And why would you know it? I mean, unless something's happened. So,
and I want to make sure everyone knows that's what makes Lynn's background and experience and her work in this space with us, with you, so significant. This isn't just her business. She's had that heart, that service of helping people in emergency situations. And she knows the added stress and what happens when people don't have the living plans in place.
And it's also, I will tell you, it's hard to be in the reactive space for over the 30 years that I was. So for me, it's a time for me to use my experiences to go be a proactive cheerleader. I got to tell you, it feels great having this stuff done. I mean, because then I know, okay, cool, I really can go surfs up and go live for the day. Because, okay, yeah, something's going to happen when it's going to happen. I don't have control over that. But I do have control over the things that I can do to help set it up to make it easier for someone to help me. And that's my gusto. So the book itself has 3 sections. It has a pre-planning section, and it includes crazy stuff like, what to document and your home inventory and, blah, 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 blah. And I do talk about like the estate planning process and the difference between trusts and wills and powers of attorney and all that. But I talk in my way.
Right. And it's not scary. and
it can be overwhelming. And I know that
it can be overwhelming, but you understand it. You've written it so we can understand it.
That's my hope, my fervent hope.
Okay.
But I also have an at a loss section because you guys, it's really hard when someone you love dies. And, you think, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? Okay. Number one, the only thing you really need to concentrate in that moment on is make sure you order some death certificates, but take care of yourself, because that's when it's the time for people to be together. The last section is ongoing follow-up, and I think that this is the piece that we're the least advised about. Oh my heavens, we have to, like, when we have to shut stuff down for someone, we don't have like the basic handbook. I mean, we don't come out with an expiration
Like
date.
when parents have a baby. No,
We have no clue. And so it's like, okay, so I started a listing, if you will, of all kinds of people that we need to notify, and then you get to add your own. But then the appendices, you can start writing down your personalized information. So, like your general health information, the contacts, because everybody doesn't have access to your phone. And then, the document list, because frankly, there's a whole bunch of stuff that all will need to be closed out. And then I have a little location bar, so you can start writing that in. So yeah, it's just, I aim for it to be a practical guide for you, but it's also something that I've heard from people, even when they haven't done stuff in advance, it's really helped them, like when their parents have died and stuff. But I update it every year because there are things that change. I mean, again, those state and national laws, I mean, there are the legislative impact that comes in. We can be the best made plans of mice and men, and then all of a sudden are thrown a Mickey. A little curveball comes in, and it's like, oh, okay, you got no business to have a stretch IRA. Well, what the heck? I just did this, and that. So, we've got to stay a little bit up to snuff. And I'm like really curious. I'd love to look at what's happening in each of the 50 states plus DC. And I'd like to see the impact of legislative impact because it hits all of us.
Well, and I just want everyone to know that you can buy one book or people buy them in bulk. So I want you to know that real estate agents give them as gifts, and financial people and estate planning attorneys. Her book is critical for anyone who wants to feel they're starting now. They're
or at least be aware of what is the kind of that labyrinth of stuff that we need to actually kind of take a little action and focus.
Right. And you can purchase the book on the website on the screen. And then I want to make sure, Lynn meets each of us where we are. That's also what's so beautiful. And because she stays current in the different laws in the different states, she helps people nationwide.
And I always make sure that you double and triple check with your attorney, because I am not an attorney.
Right.
I am not a financial advisor. I am not an insurance agent, but believe me, I have thoughts about all of it.
Right. Yes. And you need to hear that from Lynn. And then I want to make sure we go into this, Lynn, because business owners and independent contractors, she serves them as well. Do you want to tell that brief story that I know a little bit about?
What's interesting is that, especially when we're working on our own, I think what's fascinating is we don't always think about that either. I mean, what are our processes? What are our systems? What kinds of access do people have? I mean, there are people that I have worked with that have been franchise owners. There are people that are just, independent contractors. There are people that are S Corps and C Corps. And what I'm finding is anything in life, it tends to need a trigger for us to actually take action. And so it could be after a health issue, when family members are saying we have no idea what's going on, or it could be after a flood, after a tornado, after an earthquake, after a fire, because there are things that are happening when we're living that can impact the ability for us to keep a business running too. We are living still within a pandemic stage. So, there have been some really interesting things that have gone on, and just the whole process flow of understanding what you do, what your employees do, what your contractors do. If someone were to be gone for a while, who could step in for them? And this is, comes from my time leading teams, and overseeing multiple states, cities, countries, whatever. And I am one that likes to have a backup for the backup.
Right.
to make sure that somebody could actually step in, so that if something personal happens, you've got relief. But if something happens that's, client related, then you've got help. I mean, at the end of the day, we want our businesses to thrive just as we want to thrive.
Right.
And there are necessary regulatory pieces that need to be adhered to. And, I'm a little nosy Nelly on that stuff, but I also want to protect the security of our information. So you could call me the cybercrime dog too, because you gotta be a little careful on stuff, and how you're handling processes. I know business partners that don't have partnership agreements.
Oh, wow.
And there was a
Mhm.
gentleman, a local gentleman where I live, who was actually in the legal profession,
Mm.
and he didn't have his own legal documents completed there, and didn't have partnership agreements, and his entire practice had to be shut down.
Wow.
And that left his wife in a world of hurt.
Oh, wow.
So that's the stuff that I hope to prevent.
Mhm.
The other piece is kids. When we're 18, all the responsibilities begin. And maybe this is a throwback to my RA days, and head res days, but I mentor kids as they are leaving high school and starting college, and they're so excited. And just try to educate on some of those practical things that they need to do once they're 18, because guess what? A lot of the responsibilities are falling on them to give permission for people to be contacted should something happen to them health wise, to be, to permission for someone to help them if they needed to do stuff. So, you know what? I'm a geek, and
We know,
I
but
play, and I just want to like make sure that all of us have an understanding and actually are motivated to take some action before we need it.
right. And some people will say, you know, I've shared Purchase Lynn's book here, and some people might say, well, what if I want more than a book, right? Well, Lynn also does online and in-person
Mhm.
classes.
Mhm. That's in those. I mean, you know what? Basically, because I'm me, I don't have to ask for permission from anybody. So what you need is what you get. So if it's something where it's an hourly consultancy type thing, great. The well-being checkup, I love. The online and in-person classes, absolutely. I mean, I've done this on behalf of communities and like companies or whatever it is, because sometimes it's client awareness workshops.
Right.
It depends on what you are looking to tailor, and I'll tailor it.
Right. She'll meet the needs of the audience, right? I
That's
mean, Lynn,
important to me.
you're gifted at that, okay? And then I just want to end with this because Lynn truly does all she can for whoever she can in the best way she can, and she wants to do it for as long as she can.
Mhm.
And I mean, Lynn,
Okay,
ah,
so you guys, Dr. Pam asked me to, what's something that blah blah blah, and I thought, well, this pretty much sums me up. So, at the end of the day, I think that I believe in like us. We're a community, and in this community called life, guess what? We help each other out. So let's lift each other up and make sure that we got what we need when we need it. Maybe even in advance of when you need it, so that it's a little bit easier when the times are tough. Because dang it,
right.
I don't like those tough times, but they happen.
Right. And I want everyone to know. Let us know if you were watching if you're going to watch the replay, type replay in the comments
Yeah,
and reach out to me and Lynn. I'm happy to connect you. I really, really recommend that everybody grab this book. It
thank you.
is a game changer for how you view what you need to do now while you're alive. It is not simply about the will. And
Yeah,
you can purchase that book here. And with that, Lynn,
thank you.
any final words or anything you want to say?
Live life fully every day, and don't just sit here and be in fear. This is for us to like embrace life. I mean, what a gift we have. So go play. Don't sweat the small stuff, and breathe in and breathe out. And if you have any questions about, what is it that I really need, or how do I get started, we'll just have a frank discussion. So let's
Mhm.
play.
Okay. Thanks, Lynn. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your time today. Such
I'm
an
glad to
important
be
message.
here.
Okay.